that Spirit of America can be the difference that makes a difference in Ukraine. And I know that's true, and it will depend on whether we can act at a large enough scale and with enough speed.
That if Ukraine is ultimately successful, it will potentially be by a very slim margin. The separation between a win in the near term or a protracted conflict that favors Russia may just come down to how much of a boost Ukraine can get right now. That realization also drove home the point for us that what Spirit of America is doing in Ukraine at this very moment and in the coming months with our deliberately focused high payoff projects could actually constitute that marginal difference that Ukraine needs to shorten this war and save countless lives. In effect, Spirit of America could be the difference maker if we can continue applying our efforts at scale and speed during this most critical point of the war. So the answer is a tailored tactical network that solves all of those problems. And the U.S. has some experience with such a network. This kind of network runs application-based command and control systems via a secure cloud using servers. And then there's a hardware backbone of commercial off-the-shelf phones and tablets that makes it all work. So effectively, those applications and the hardware serve as a bridge for Ukrainians to access this vast pool of information that the U.S. is allowed to share with them. And all of it is basically available at the click of a button. So with this system in hand, the Ukrainians would be able to have a flow of information, and that flow of information changes overnight from the previous circumstances, which were basically stuttering and glacial, to conditions where that information can be shared seamlessly and instantaneously. And then downstream, this system allows Ukrainians in the field to use that information much more nimbly and effectively. So for Ukrainian commanders in the field with these kinds of systems, their ability to see the battlefield in depth in real time would basically give them a superpower to outthink and outmaneuver the Russians and deliver blows against some of their most high-value assets far beyond the front lines. Luckily, someone in the headquarters at Wiesbaden thought to reach out to us for help, and we've been in contact with them periodically. So they knew us, they trusted us. Of course, we immediately recognized the potential of the project that they were recommending for us, and we stepped in to buy those hundreds of phones and tablets that they were able to immediately put in the hands of the Ukrainians and hook it up to this tactical network. That was enough to field a test run at the level of a core-sized element, and that core is playing an essential role in the counteroffensive today. So those results have been nothing short of astounding. We got the back brief from our U.S. colleagues, and they keep a running scorecard of the damage inflicted on the Russians that is directly traceable to operations enabled by this specific tactical network. As of last week, during our visit, that number had topped $2.1 billion with an accumulation rate of basically $1 billion a month and counting. That's not bad for an investment of $600,000. The Ukrainians have received hundreds of highly sophisticated weapons for air defense, long-range precision artillery, ground combat systems. These are incredibly valuable for the Ukrainians in winning this war. The Russians know this as well, and they have set out to deliberately target those systems and remove them from the battlefield. So the Ukrainians, basically, thanks to their inherent ingenuity, they created a capability to deceive and confuse the Russians in ways that make it extremely challenging for the Russians to actually find and destroy these high-value targets. The only challenge is that the Ukrainians just don't have the funding resources to bring this capability to a more appropriate scale, which is yet another example of something that lies within this gap that the U.S. government finds hard to fill, but it can be filled with outside resources, such as ours from Spirit of America. So this is another example of where our deep and trusted relationships with the U.S. military and with the Ukrainian government has paid off again. U.S. military helped us confirm this critical need, and then the Ukrainian general staff gave the nod to the program leaders to share their plans with us so that we could help. Russia
is, as a first step, seeking to erase Ukraine, and its intentions are not to stop with Ukraine. And as in talking with one of our advisory board members, General Jim Mattis, the last few days, he pointed out, while Ukraine is the shield of Europe, and this is why the Baltic states and Poland are so motivated to help stop this war and help Ukraine win. So the security ramifications are not just about Ukraine, it affects all of Europe. And then you look at what China and Xi might be learning from what happens here, is if the West, the US, NATO, and our allies fail here to stop this war and help Ukraine win, it's pretty easy to imagine what that means to Xi in China with respect to Taiwan, the Asia Pacific, what other bad actors might learn from this as well. And that's why we talk about this, the consequences going on for having effect for generations.